Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the final project presentation of CSE427 machine learning. So this project investigates the connection between national anthems and different global indices. I have analyzed national anthem musical data to determine whether certain musical characteristics are associated with peace, happiness, suicide rate, crime rate, etc. I have used computational music analysis techniques to extract pitch, tempo, beat, and other pertinent audio features. I have then compared these musical characteristics with data on different global indices to ascertain whether a significant correlation exists. So it shows clustering based on the national anthems of 166 countries and their possible correlation. So this workflow is as follows. Like, first I have to collect the data, then I have to pre-process the data, then I have to do feature extraction from the audio data, then I need to find the clustering parameters, then I need to do clustering on both audio and index data, which I have done here in by k-means algorithm. Then finally I have found the possible correlation. So this image shows my workflow in this project. So first I have imported the dataset along with all the dependencies. I have used music 21 library, Pretty library, and notesec library, and the other usual machine learning libraries. And the datasets I've used two pertinent datasets. So the first category is the national anthems. I have used the national anthems of every country dataset from Kaggle, which contains 171 files, which contains some duplicate files also. And the next, this is all the national anthems in MIDI format. And the next dataset is global indices dataset. I have created this dataset from www.worldproportionalreviews.com. I have made many changes before uploading it as dataset in Kaggle. I have not only included the ranks, I have also included the scores of different indices, because they may help find us the outliers of the countries. So in next part, I have taken a sample MIDI file from the dataset. Then I have defined a function which will store all the important musical data, like note duration, note velocity, rest duration, melodic contour, pitch, beat, and tempo. Also, the number of time signature changes in a dictionary. I've taken an empty dictionary and it will store all these values in that dictionary. So after that, if I parse this file, I can see these values and these characteristics and their values. Every characteristic as a key and the value as the value. So in this way, I have parsed all the files from the MIDI dataset. Also, I've imported the index dataset like this. Then I have to pre-process the data. So as we know, we have to pre-process the data so that any empty files were removed. So we had previously 171 files. After removing the empty files, we were left with 168, and two were duplicates. So after removing the duplicates, we were left with finally 166 unique countries. So after reading the CSV file from the index dataset, we see it is something like this. So finally, in our pre-processing step, we'll remove all the countries which are not common in both the datasets. So I've made a list of all the countries which are not available in the index data. Also the same for the national anthem data. I removed all of them from both the datasets so that we may have a equal number of data points in both the sets. So after, we are having 128 countries in both the index and the national anthem set. For this index, I have taken here the peace index. So in peace index, we are left with 128. Then we need to find the optimal number of clusters for both the data frames. So for k-means algorithm, we know there are a few methods to obtain the optimal number of clusters. So first, I'm going to try the elbow method. So fitting the data frame in the library, I found the elbow shows 5 clusters, but as we can see, it is a pretty smooth curve. There is no distinct elbow, so it is not properly reliable. So for index also, I can see elbow is at 4. It is also quite smooth curve, not distinct. So I further use silhouette scoring. for finding the optimal number of clusters. For silhouette scoring, I see that 5 centers is giving the most results, and also 5 centers is giving the best results here. So I've again taken 5 as my cluster number, cluster centers here, and also in index. So after clustering index, these are my centroids, and this is the data frame after the indexing. So before indexing, I dropped the country name from the national anthem dataset because it is a categorical value. We cannot do k-means on categorical value. Also, I have dropped the rank and also the country from the index dataset because the rank may influence the scores, which I do not want. Also, the country is a categorical value, and we do not want categorical value in k-means. So after that, we are left with these things. So this is the after clustering, this is what we're left with. So again, I've added the country column in the main data frame, which is the national anthem data frame. Also did the same for the index data frame. Also, the ranks were added to the data frames. So we can see the clusters grouped by their labels as follows. Like we can see the names of the country and their cluster labels. For this is for the national anthem and this is for the index. So we can see all the lower ranked countries are indexed in the same group. It is indexed by their scores. So I've also found a cluster summary so that we can actually see how one cluster is being different from the other cluster by their values of different columns. And also did the same for the index. After that, I have just in my final step, I have found the similarity or the possible correlations among all these countries. So it is just a simple loop which finds the name of one country of one cluster in the um, clusters of the other index. So here I can see the highest similarity is similarity between cluster 0 of national anthems and cluster 4 of index. That means that cluster 0 of national anthems, those musical characteristics are similar with the index characteristics. I mean those piece ranking characteristics by 66%, more than 66%. Also, it is also a huge percentage, which is cluster 3 of national anthems and cluster 3 of index, which is 52.63%. So I have made a visualization with seaborne heat map. So I can see this is the most common thing, which is supposed to be 66%, and these are the other two most prominent matching. So let's see how these two are related. So it is showing cluster 0 of national anthem and cluster 4 of index. So cluster 4 of index and cluster 0 of national anthem. So these are the lowest peace ranking countries, and it is showing cluster 3 of national anthem and cluster 3 of index. So cluster 3 of index is the highest peace ranking countries, and cluster 3 of national anthem, this is this one, and this is this one. So let's see how the highest peace ranking countries differ from the lowest peace ranking countries. So we can see the node durations of the countries are very different. Also the node velocities are very different. Rest durations are also different. It is much lower. Melodic control is quite similar. Pitch mode is also quite similar. Beat mean is very different, like it's 27 and it's 32. Tempo is the most different. I mean, the least peace having countries are having the lowest tempo, and the most peace loving countries are having a moderate tempo or higher tempo. Number of time signature changes is also lower in these countries. So I have made a Excel table with these so that we can have a better understanding, and I have taken all the things here so that we can have a better understanding. So this is all done with the peace index. Let's do another index to see if these values change accordingly what we're expecting, if they change according to our expectation. Now let's take the suicide index. So let's put it in suicide index, and now let's run all the cells again. In the same way, it will just do its work. And let's find the silhouette and elbow scores for both of them. So this elbow is showing K at 4, and it is a good elbow, I think. And this is not a good elbow, it is at 6. So in four centers, the silhouette plus showing good score. Also here, uh, in four centers it is showing better score. So I'll take 4 in this case. In case of the suicide index, I'll take 4 clusters each. Let's cluster them now. Now do the rest of the work, and then we'll find the correlations. So first let's check which country is having the highest suicide rate. So the highest suicide rate index is cluster 1 and the lowest is cluster 2. Okay, so let's see. Cluster 1 matches with cluster 0 of national anthems. Okay, and cluster 2 matches with cluster 2 of national anthems. So cluster 0 and cluster 2. These are our comparisons for the highest and the lowest suicide rates. So we can see note duration again, as we have seen in peace index, it varies a lot. Again, note velocities, it is also varying, but not that much. Rest duration is varying a lot again. So we are seeing the same musical characteristics varying for peace index, also the suicide index. Melody contour is also not changing that much. Pitch mode is also kind of same. Beat here is also very different, 30 and 80. It is very different. Tempo is also very different in this case here. So we can see the zeroth of the zero cluster of the national anthem matched with cluster 1 of index. So this is the highest suicide rate. Those having the highest suicide rate having the least tempo. And in the peace index also we have seen those countries with low peace scores were having the lowest tempo. Also the time signature changes is also same. It is having the very low time signature change, and this is having very high time signature change. So we can conclude that there is a very high correlation between certain musical characteristics and the correlation with these global indices. I mean, their suicide rate or peace or other things. We can do all the same for other indexes as well, like happiness index and crime rate, etc. But I have not found any significant correlation between these scores and the national anthems for crime index and human development index. I have found significant correlations only in 3 indexes, like peace index, happiness index, and suicide index. So the limitations of my project are the study was only considered a limited number of social indices and musical features, which may not fully capture the complexity of the relationship between music and social outcomes. The second limitation was the study relied on publicly available data, which may not be comprehensive or up to date. Next, the study focused on national anthems as a musical genre, which may not be a representative of all music produced in a given country. So there are other music produced in that country which also may um, si- uh, significantly impose some bias to the people of that country to have the high peace scores or low peace scores. Last, the study only explored correlations between musical features and social indices and did not establish a causal relationship. So it is not a causal relationship, it's just a correlation. Finally, the study used computational music analysis technique, which is not fully capture the subjective experience of listening to music. Like people tend to improve their personalities by listening to music, or their personalities depend a lot on music. This work is novel because uh, it is not done yet in any research, as far as I know. Uh, these things were done, musical analysis and genre detection and predicting the personality of people. This was done previously, but predicting the scores of a whole country based on their musical characteristics of the national anthems, it is not done yet. So it can be extended so that the popular music of one country can be taken into consideration, all the tracks instead of only the national anthem, and then it can be clustered, so it can be a better research scope, I think, for the future. And I think for now this work is publish worthy because it is novel and it is not done yet. So that's all from my presentation. Thank you for your patience. Assalamu alaikum.